plan?
Yeah.
Good. Continue both of them.
That would be my plan. I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, do we have?
What?
Do we have-
Oh, I'm okay. Yeah, I get it.
My anticipation is the magnitude of what we're facing. This is a great development that had new additional okay. We have new additional information
Yeah.
that it, the comments of, comments of
I'm sorry, I heard them all before. All right. We've resumed our meeting. We're not in recess any longer. The recording is on. Thank you for allowing us to stretch and relax a minute. We've been sitting here 2.5 hours almost. 3.5. I'm sorry. Been a long night. I can't count.
Time flies.
How long is that board feet there? That's what you.
3.5. No wonder I'm tired. All right. I know. I'm just trying to get to it diplomatically. All right, council, what are your wishes?
Mayor, at this point, I would move that we continue both agenda item 9A and agenda item 6B, I believe is to our July 2023 meeting. In light of the comments that we had tonight, new information that has come in to me and to the council, in addition to what we have, because of the magnitude of the project and the impact that it could have, I would ask that we continue it to allow us to have some additional time and to also potentially address some of the new conditions that have been talked about, including dealing with parking, RVs, boats, that sort of stuff. So I would move that we continue this till the July 2023 session.
Well, they have excluded boats and RVs and all anyway, but, and the parking comes with the site plan, but we have received additional information. We have a motion by Ms. Redding. Do I have a second?
Mayor, I think what we might need to do is just recess the balance of this hearing until our July meeting.
July 13th.
Rather
All right.
than continuing it, because then we would have to
We're not gonna hear a motion, we're just gonna continue,
She can make a
recess
motion
the meeting.
recess it.
All right,
She can
make
just-
a motion to recess the meeting.
All right, I move that we recess the meeting to the July 13th, 2023.
Good.
Recess these agenda item 9A and agenda item 6B to the July 13th, 2023 meeting.
Holly, you got that? Okay, thank you. Discussion. Have a motion,
I'll second.
oh, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bell is the second. Discussion. And you pretty much gave us your thoughts in your first motion, but you wanna just, for the record, give us that again.
I just say, also in light of the fact that it is now 10:30 at night, we've been discussing matters of this for about 3.5 hours. Given the magnitude of the development, the magnitude of the impact on the surrounding neighborhood, I just believe it's appropriate to recess the hearings.
Okay. Neighbors, I appreciate you being here tonight. I'm sorry that we're about to make you come back next month. It'll be first on the agenda. You will not have to sit here all night. And you remember when some of you came to the church for the neighborhood meeting with the developer, and I remember saying to those of you that were in attendance that this was your best opportunity to get a subdivision, the best subdivision, and something you could certainly live with long-term. So we've heard lots of reasons to approve it. We've heard a lot of suggestions on possible ideas on how to make it better or satisfy some of the neighbors. Some of that may or may not come out between now and the next meeting. But you have my sincere apologies for making you come back.
And it's July 13th. You know, normally we meet the first week of the month because 4th of July is that week. It'll be the next week, the second week, July 13th. This same room at 7 o'clock.
I don't believe we voted yet.
I guess
We need to vote.
Yeah, I know. All right, we have not voted. All in favor of the motion to recess until our July 13th meeting, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign.
Now it's July 13th.
All right, and we'll give you a couple of minutes to clear the room. We've got about 7 or 8 more items to address tonight, so you guys will be long asleep before we get home. So,
Thank you for being here.
thank you for your patience. Get us started on that.
Did you say that clearly into the microphone?
Get us started on that.
It's like to say that happened.
We were fortunate tonight, we had no public comment, for the public comment period.
This kind of thing happens.
So we'll see you next.
You're gonna get seen.
And I probably exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
It ain't gonna happen. Not while I'm mayor. Once you get elected mayor, you can do what you wanna do, but I'm not doing it.
Let's back up here and talk for 30 minutes about the television show.
Most of them seem kind of hurt.
Yeah.
Does not share my view. Agree.
Actually, most of them taking it pretty well, better than I thought, actually.
All right,
That made my night.
I bet it did. 6, all right. We need to close the door out there if everybody's gonna talk. All right, legislative hearing I will open, for case number RZ-23-06. It's a request to rezone property located at 1195 Pine View Road.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a application filed by the property owner Terry Tucker to rezone property from a conditional zoning B2 district to a conditional zoning R10 district for a residential planned unit development. This does include a request for a special intensity allocation within the Back Creek watershed. Think back 2 cases before, the reason you can hear this item is because the council adopted the change to the code that now allows a residential project to pursue a allocation within the watershed. There is one parcel ID involved within this request. It's about 13.4 acres in total, presently undeveloped land. Up on the screen, the subject parcel is outlined in blue. You can see it's colored red because both it and the assisted living, independent living facility to the north is already zoned, conditional zoning commercial. The blue shading paralleling the interstate is actually in essence, a scenic corridor overlay that has some zoning standards above and beyond the typical zoning district that are applicable to areas within that overlay. All of the cross hatching you see that covers the entirety of this map is denoting that it is within the balance of the watershed for Back Creek. Again, colored aerials colored shading denotes city land use jurisdiction. The area in white, which would be to the west, denotes Randolph County zoning jurisdiction. As we zoom in closer, the subject parcel is identified by letter A on this map. And all other letters on here are considered adjoining property owners and would receive notice pertaining to this meeting. We have also posted the sign as required by state law, advertising this public hearing, and have run the necessary notice in the newspaper. This property, unlike the property to the south, where you see that R40 zoning, this property is in the city limits already. Property to the south with that, those dots denotes an extraterritorial jurisdiction designation. So we have existing commercial property within the city limits asking to be put into a residential district for a PUD. This is a topographic and utility map for the area. I've handed out the site plan associated with this request here this evening. You can see where existing city-maintained water and sewer is located. So the blue lines denote what the city maintains. The project would extend that city water into the development. Sewer would be served by I believe eventually a city line that gets to the existing lift station. It would require the applicant or the developer to obtain the necessary easements across the property to the north in order to tie into that station. But that is the proposal for water and sewer. This is an aerial map giving you a sense of the area. You can see the interstate running north-south in the center. You can see the assisted living to the north of this property. Large, rural, undeveloped, or very low-density residential development to the west, and which is county zoning jurisdiction. And to the south, we have low-density residential zoning that's within the city's jurisdiction. On the east side, obviously, is a primary area of industrial development for the city. This is the plan that is at your places. I put it up on the screen for folks to be able to see what you are looking at. Access to these residential units, I believe there's 44 in total, would be ultimately proposed to be from a public street. The access drive that you see currently that provides the vehicular access to the assisted living is right now a private driveway. It is not maintained by the city. What the applicant is proposing ultimately is to offer that roadway for dedication to the public, make any necessary upgrades to that roadway needed to do so. That would allow the roadways within this proposed development to be also public and publicly maintained. So that is what the applicant would like to do in order to have these streets be public. It will take some off-site processes for that to happen. We have, if you look forward to the conditions that we've proposed, we have included a stipulation that would allow the streets to be private if, for whatever reason, the council does not see fit to accept this driveway for public maintenance. We do not believe whether these roadways are public or private is really a necessary a deal breaker for the project. So whether they are public or private is not really material in our opinion. If the council thinks that this is a good project and a good use of the property, then we've conditioned this to allow either a public or private to be utilized. But I will just tell you that the hope is that these can be public streets. There is curb and gutter. It is proposed to be built to city roadway standards, so it would allow it to be offered to the city if this gets approved. We'll zoom in just a little closer here. You can see the lot layouts. Again, this is a clustered type of development, so there are small lots proposed, and the units sit within those small footprints. Everything else on the property would be set aside as open space and common elements to be maintained by an owners association. There is a place for a community mailbox. You all know that the Postal Service is getting away from individual mail delivery and moving towards a cluster mailbox a method of delivering their mail. And so there is room for that community mailbox there. The plan does propose to provide stormwater controls. That is one requirement within the watershed area to address water quality. And so there are stormwater controls that will be designed at the engineering phase of this project to handle the volume of a 10-year storm, which is our typical standard. The other thing I'll point out is there is some area for recreational space provided kind of within the inside area of that looping roadway. The plan before you shows a buffer B around the entirety of the property, likely to be achieved through the preservation of existing vegetation where possible. However, at the planning board meeting this past Monday, there was adjoining landowners who asked for additional buffering or screening against their property. The planning board recommended a type C actually be installed adjacent to those landowners rather than the buffer B that was originally proposed. We have spoken to the applicant on this request, and he is agreeable to upgrading the buffer B to buffer C as a result of those comments Monday evening. So other than that, this plan remains similar to what the planning board reviewed Monday. On the right, you see kind of the style of home and an idea of the layout for the project. Plan details are provided. It gives you an idea of what a typical buffer B would be. Again, buffer C is going to have a few more plants in it, shrubs and trees per a few more per 100 feet, every 100 feet. This roadway is a 30-foot roadway section that is acceptable to the city. It does allow, as you talked about in the prior case, on-street parking on one side. That is one of the changes to the city codes that has been made recently, is to ensure that we at least get parking on one side of all roadways, whether they're public or private. This is a photo of the subject property as seen from the end of that existing private driveway that serves the existing assisted living. This is looking northwards from that connection at Pineview. So it's likely, if this gets approved, that you will eventually see a survey and drawings dedicating this to the city for public maintenance. We will talk about, if that happens, we'll talk about what may be necessary as far as that driveway to meet the city standards. This is Pineview looking east from the adjoining access to the property. And this is Pineview heading west, again, at the intersection. This is heading north on the easement. Heading north on the easement from the subject property towards Pineview. You can see the existing facility. And as you saw from the plan, it does abut the on-ramp to I-73-74. That's a shot. Subject property to the right past those trees. Again, we expect a certain degree of buffering to be maintained and shield the project from view. So Pineview is state maintained. It will require driveway permitting by the Department of Transportation. That will be a stipulation, should council approve the project, that the state issue the necessary permits. Those conversations have started at the state level. Talking about property in the city limits, I've shown you the city services. We are capable of providing service to the site. As you know, the conditional zoning process, it's a customized zoning district, so you can deviate from certain standard stipulations. The primary deviation on this project is typically we're looking for PUDs to have direct access to a existing public street. In this case, it has access to a roadway that's essentially as similar to a state roadway, but it's not publicly maintained. As I said, the plan would be for that to be offered to the city and dedicated. So that's one, the one deviation on this project is just how access currently is provided to the project. We're in the Back Creek watershed area. Again, because you've adopted the SIA provisions allowing a residential project to take use of that, we are looking at a built-upon area overall of about 27% on the overall property. You know that a property can request up to 70% built-upon area. In this case, they are requesting just more than double what they would be allowed to do by right without requesting this allocation. So overall, it's not a huge amount of built-upon area that is requested here this evening. And we estimate that if you approve this special intensity allocation, it's going to use between 4 and 5% of our remaining area that we can allocate within the watershed. So from our position, we still have some flexibility for future projects should this project be approved.
And to be fair, the county will probably never make a dent in those.
I would agree. They should be set for quite a long time, even if they grant us some allocation. These, as I mentioned at the text amendment stage of this, these allocations need to do 5 things: minimize built-upon surface area, direct stormwater away from surface waters, incorporate best management practices, must be connected to city water and sewer, and must provide an economic benefit or now housing opportunities to the community. So provided all of those standards are met, which we believe they are, the project's eligible for the requested allocation. R10 residential district, which is the district being sought, is intended to provide regulations which will produce a moderate intensity of residential uses, usually single or 2-family in character, served by city services. The density that's proposed with this project is consistent with what we see in other R10 residential projects. So we think that there is alignment there. That figures about 3.39 dwelling units per acre as proposed. Overall, we do have recommendations for this property since it currently is within our jurisdiction. The proposed land use map recognizes it as it's currently zoned for commercial development. It's within the Northwest Small Area Plan, and it is a primary growth area as it's within the corporate limits. Overall, when we look at the text of the land development plan, we find that there's 4 goals, tend to support the request, 3 tend to be more negative towards the request. There are a series of conditions. I'm not going to read through all these. They've been in your packet and available online. But these are proposed in order to ensure continuing compliance with with city codes and consistency with the city's adopted plans. The one most of note, I think, this evening is a new condition N, which has been added since Monday evening. Type C buffer or screen shall be provided along with the southern and western property boundaries, consistent with the planning board action. So we have incorporated that into this. While, again, the property is designated for commercial use by our plan, it's surrounded by residential uses. The proposed use and density, we believe, is more appropriate and provides transition between the adjacent institutional use and what is pretty rural residential development. We think that's a better fit than what might be allowed or proposed under the current commercial zoning designation. Further, the lack of direct frontage on Pine View, we believe, limits the viability of commercial options for the property, making residential a more sensible option. So for those and other reasons contained in the report, staff's recommendation is to approve. Planning board, as I said, also senses to you favorably. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Nuttall? All right, I'm pretty sure I opened the public hearing, and this is the appointed time, so is anyone in the room that would like to address it? Jerry, trust you to take care of it.
Busy night.
Just let you know.
Busy night. Guys, I think you know who I am at this.
Job to go to in the morning.
If anybody wants breakfast later, we'll meet at Golden Waffle or somewhere. Right, Clark?
Music to my ears.
I see Clark there quite often. Okay, so I represent Mr. Terry Tucker on this request. This property is currently zoned conditional use B2. There are a number of uses that could be considered at this, on this property that, in my opinion, would be more intrusive to neighbors. At the planning board meeting, a couple of the neighbors spoke. They're here tonight, concerned about their quiet enjoyment, and I understand. At that time, Mr. Tucker agreed to change to the Class B buffer, just to be amenable. He's happy to do that. I'm particularly pleased, and C is a very interesting product, as Walker well knows. County has a lot. They'll never use it all because we're I think, a third largest county in the state by land mass. We've got a ton of water, of SEA relief available. And the good news here, he's only using 27% on as-built instead of asking for the 70%. Truthfully, topography plays a lot in that, but I don't think I need to show you any more than the Sportsplex to tell you what Terry can do with a backhoe and a grader. He could do a lot of things, but he's happy to go with this. One thing I noted, and Trevor spoke to, it's the drive coming in. It is a private drive now. I think he owns it, frankly, but we can argue that one later. He does own some land to the west of that drive. So if you're concerned about possibly widening that road later to make it a little wider for city consumption or use, that is possible because he does own land to the west. It'd be a shame, frankly, to cut those trees, those beautiful trees you saw going in. In addition, Mr. Tucker also owns a lift station that's there at this time. I think at some point he would turn that over to the city. We talked to Mike Roney about that some in the past. A few details to do that, but he does own that. I don't think there are going to be any issues with easement to the lift station. With that said, I think this is an appropriate use. I think we covered, I won't bore you with the details of real estate availability again in Randolph County. We don't have any in Asheboro available. You guys have approved some projects. They're not out of the ground. And as I understand it, Mr. Lucas on both of those on Zoo Parkway is going to keep those for his own use and rent those probably and for his future retirement, which is still good, still housing, people still live in them. But this is more the northern section. It's a good shot to the loop, as you guys know, to High Point, Winston, beyond. We feel like it's in keeping with the request is in keeping without totally destroying the land development plan. And I think it goes without saying, Mr. Tucker does a good job. Mr. Marziano is here. Should you have engineering questions, he is the man of the hour. Any questions for me, I'll be glad to answer.
You addressed the type C buffer. Are the remaining conditions amenable to the applicant?
He's already said that's amenable, and Trevor verified that with him earlier, personally tonight. He has left. I think his dog needed him.
Maybe we just needed to put it on the record.
Yeah, so
All right.
consider that acceptable.
Mr. Marziano, do you have anything to add?
You have any questions?
Unless you have questions.
Okay, thank you for your time.
I got one question.
Okay,
One question.
Yes, sir, Bill.
What kind of buffer between this facility, these homes and the assisted living? What we got? How much is going to be?
I'll yield to Mr. Marziano.
That hasn't been discussed exactly for that area.
Mm-hmm.
We've got more room on that side to put another landscape buffer, if that's something you want to put as a condition. I'm sure Terry will agree to it.
Okay, well, it just seems to me there needs to be something there with the assisted living in these apartments.
The plat shows the B.
I think there's some city ordinances that do some requirements in that.
that shows a B.
Well, we've got a D.
Okay. Any other
At
questions?
least a B.
Yeah, everything as required.
Not required,
I said as required.
as required.
As required.
All right. Who else would like to speak to this request, please?
I'm
Well,
like,
I'm sorry you had to wait all night.
oh boy, like Terry, I got crews to get going here in a few hours, so I'm gonna make this short and sweet. I'm Michael Fry. I own the 44 acres on the south side of Terry's property there. Between myself and my family, we got 100 acres that all join right there. I'm not gonna sit here and cry and beg to not do this. I mean, I don't want it, but I'm sure you know that's why I'm up here. We hunt and farm it. My main thing is what this proposal is, I mean, it's just not consistent with the other residential surrounding areas, and I know that's annexed into the city there, this other stuff's county. I've never really understood fully why it's zoned commercial currently. I don't quite understand all that, but I just, yeah, and I guess I'm understanding that it was, supposed to be for future expansion.
Proximity to the bypass.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
gonna be, originally it was gonna be a much larger.
yeah.
Facility never expanded.
Yeah, and the facility that's there, I mean, they're wonderful neighbors. I mean, you know, it's a
They
great.
don't hunt and fish.
No, exactly. They pretty much keep to their own. So I mean and you know, I mean, I've got concerns on my 44. You know, we're planning on putting a house there. Those townhomes, if you look at the topos, they're about 20 foot taller than my house, and they're not far. I mean, I know we increased that buffer Monday night, but you know, they're not far, and it's a pretty steep drop to them. So I mean, I know they're going to have, you know, catch basins and curb and gutter and all that on the paved surfaces, but what's going to happen when they grade that lot off and, you know, all the runoff just from the surface of the houses and all that, the yards and everything. I mean, it's just so much more above me. And the traffic, I mean, you're talking about 44 units, that's 88 vehicles. Pine View's insane as it is. I mean, I don't know, I don't know what kind of traffic analysis they've done on it, but I just feel like that's pretty, you know, substantial increase in traffic there. And then, you know, on the plans, he's got security lighting. You know, I mean, we're country folk. I don't really want to have floodlights coming in my windows. And, you know, when I'm up there with my family, I mean, we're hunting in deer stands and we got lights, you know, I mean, it's first world problems, but, you know, it is what it is. But I mean, you know, like we increased the buffer. I mean, I would, if you guys do pass this, I mean, I'm really, we need some sort of structural boundary to keep people from coming in on us. Because I mean, all it would take is some kid to come over and fall off one of my cliffs. You know, a bullet ricochets off a tree when we, you know, shoot at a deer or something. You know, and it kills a kid, drowns in a pond. I mean, you know, it's just these are the things that we, you know, are concerned about. But anyway, that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Mr. Fry.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else? Come on up, sir.
Yes, sir. My name's Gary Hinesley. I own the property at D. My mother owns the property of E. And I'm just, you know, pretty much going to give you about the same thing Michael did. This is completely out of character with the fit of the existing neighborhood. We have no multifamily housing, residential housing averages well over 5 acres of residence, and probably a lot more. That's just an average. This city limits, that 25 acres is the only thing west of the bypass until you get to Presnell Vision, somewhere in there. And like Michael said, it's going to add 42 units, is going to add 80 plus vehicles on average, 100 and some people on 13 acres. Like he said, also, you know, I've got horses, got cows. We've got that 3-acre pond. You know, if you pass it, we do, for liability reasons, we need a fence, a tall fence.
D and E.
I'm sorry, sir.
You're D
Lots
and
D
E.
and E, or you?
Yes. I actually own what's in front of D2, that little 6-acre tract.
Okay.
Your mom owns E.
Yes, sir.
Nice looking piece of property.
Most of that land over there belonged to my grandfather at one time. Also, as Michael said with the traffic, if it passes for this residential for that much cars, we'd like to see a turn lane. Pine View is not,
It's generally up to DOT.
Right.
Whether they require acceleration and deceleration lanes. They specify as the developer gets a driveway approval and whatnot. It's not generally in our purview.
Right.
To require that. And I just have one question. I understand what both of you are saying. It's not in character, with the neighborhood and the residential just to the west of it. But what would you have built on the interstate highway? Now, I know you just said you're getting ready to build a house out there, but, that's generally, it's generally reserved, or not reserved, but anticipated to be commercial development. And lower end apartments. So, if this is not in character on the interstate highway, what would you say would?
I don't have a problem with the commercial. I don't have a problem with 4 or 5 houses going up there. But you're taking 42 units on the 13 acres. I mean, he says he's using 27% of the land. The building space might, but if you'll look at the map, there's what, 30, 40 foot left around the property line? In the overall with the street. You follow me? Yes. I see more than 27% being used in the whole.
And you're actually requesting a fence to separate these apartments from your property.
Yes. And Michael's also, be the west side and the south side. I'd rather not see it at all, but, you know, if we've got to come to that, that's what we come to, but. You know, Mr. Gallimore made a statement the other night at the planning board that, you know, commercial could be a lot worse than this. I don't agree. The nursing home is commercial. Greatest neighbors we've ever had. As far as, you know, they're on their side, we're on our side. You know, he's talking about the cancer center.
Different types of commercial, some commercial closes at 9:30, 10 o'clock, some close at 5 o'clock. That makes a difference in whether you live beside them or not.
Right.
Of course.
But you don't
I
have-
live beside commercial, so easy for me to say.
Yeah, you don't have somebody in there 24/7 like you do with houses. They close down, they go home. You know, if it was commercial, I probably wouldn't ask for a fence.
Yep.
Because you don't have the people there to worry about trespassing on you or causing you liabilities.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody? Come on up.
Hey, my name is Jennifer,
Let
and
him have all the fun.
that's my husband. So I know a lot's not been mentioned about the nursing home itself. To me, that's a bit of a concern because, you know, we ride horses and we've seen residents out there, and, you know, some of these residents have, you know, cognitive issues. Thank you. Yeah, so I'm concerned when you put 80-plus people going back and forth in front of that nursing home all day long, like, you know, or is the nursing home going to implement something where their residents can't go outside? I mean, that's really all they've got anyway.
In violation of state law, if they don't have it now.
I'm sorry?
They're in violation of the state regulations if they don't have it now. We live just down the street in Carrollton. I mean, they're not out wandering the street.
Well, I mean, we've had 2 instances where residents got out, and we were looking in the woods for those residents. I mean, it's a concern.
Oh, I know, my dad escaped. 6
I
o'clock
mean,
in the morning.
it's a
week
definite
before Christmas.
concern, and, you know, along with what they said, we have a beautiful piece of property.
I can
None of
tell.
us want to look out the door or on the side of the mountain and see
Yeah.
townhouses. And that's my piece. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else? Yeah, you gotta remember to sign, you'll be in trouble with the mayor. Actually, you'll be in trouble with the clerk. Okay, nobody else, ask the council. Damn, it's been a difficult night. Ask the council for their wishes, their thoughts on this.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve this based on the consistency statement of the planning board. And the applicant's
Have a motion by Mr. Moffett to approve, consistency statement and the rezoning request. Do I have a second? Second, Mr. Burks. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Sorry. We'll, I tell you, Mr. Tucker will do everything he says he'll do and some.
And the road's not taken to the property line.
What?
The road's not taken to the property line, so this will be the end of it.
Road ain't go past this?
Yeah.
Well,
So it doesn't encroach on Michael.
all right. All right, item, D, 6D has been, they've requested a continuance. I'll open the legislative hearing and Mr. Nuttall can update us on their request.
Yes, sir. The applicant has requested for additional time in order to hold a community meeting to discuss the application. Planning Board has not made a recommendation on this request. We therefore ask that you continue this to the July 13th meeting.
Motion to continue.
Mayor, I move we continue the matter to July 13th.
Have a motion by Mr. Bell. Second.
Second.
Second, Ms. Heath. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Just our paint business is getting a little busy.
Is what? Is what?
Getting a little busy. We've added the third.
Yeah, 13 is gonna be a good one, Skip. All right, 7A, Mr. Nuttall.
Really quick, Mayor, this is the advertised time for council's consideration of adoption of the David and Pauline Gerald Center City Garden Master Plan. It's just somewhat unfortunate with the timing of things. There were quite a few supporters who I know were interested in being here this evening, but they recognized that it could be late into the evening before we got to this. But I will tell you, the final draft of the master plan is at your place, as it was put in your packet. It's been published online. We presented a lot of information on the project last month. You heard from Jen Wagner, the landscape architect, back at a special meeting you all had in February. Very little has changed to the plan since that time. It has been revised to reflect strong community support to preserve the former dwelling on the property. We talked about the assessment we had done for that structure and what it would take to convert it to a visitor center for the garden. That has been kind of incorporated into the plan. It also references the archaeological review that we commissioned on the property. Thankfully, that revealed that there's unlikely to be anything of concern as we move into the construction phase of the project. So, you know, we have the green light from a historical sense to move forward. Your adoption this evening really would indicate to the project team that we're ready to move into the construction and permitting phase of the project. So staff's recommendation is to adopt it as presented by reference. And I thank you, and I'll be able to answer any questions.
Questions?
Approving the plan, Trevor, would then open us up to be able to start applying for grant funding?
It certainly helps. We have been applying for it under the anticipated adoption, but it will be helpful to show that the plan is formally adopted. Yes, ma'am.
All right. Do I have a motion?
Mayor, I move we adopt the master plan document by reference.
Have a motion to approve by reference. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Heath. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. 7B, update on discussion with Downtown Asheboro Incorporated.
Thank you, Mayor. In April, the city staff asked for your consensus to allow us to begin discussions with Downtown Asheboro on the potential sale of the former Acme McCrary property to that nonprofit for the purpose of facilitating, ensuring historic preservation. In the last 60 days or so, we have had productive conversations with Ms. Addie Corder, DAI's executive director. I think we're making real progress. That very well may lead to a recommendation from staff to sell the property here in the not-too-distant future. We have, however, discussed with Addie and DAI the city's concern about the property's present industrial zoning designation. If you remember, it still retains the legacy zoning that had been on Acme, so it is industrially zoned. It's our belief that that zoning is not conducive to the type of redevelopment that's advocated by current adopted plans and policies. So unless there is objection from the council, I plan to present Mr. Ogburn with a application seeking rezoning to amend the property zoning from the current industrial district to OA6, which is office and apartment zoning. As you know, it's a mixed-use district. It would be more appropriate for the property. It would eliminate, importantly, the potential for future industrial uses that just may not be compatible with everything that's going on downtown. So under that premise, Planning Board would review the rezoning request in July. It would come to council for a decision in August. So unless there's an objection, that is our plan to move forward, is seek rezoning of that property and get that to you here in August.
Questions?
Well, that's great. Would that allow any retail component to any of that, or is that something we address later?
Yes.
Industrial.
Well, I would expect that a future developer will probably have to come to council for some sort of conditional zoning, seeking some relief somewhere from within the code, and at that point, any other uses could be entertained by council. Yes.
Okay,
So no action is needed. If there's no objection, that's how we will proceed.
All right.
Thank you.
Ms. Reeves, item 8, request council action on a resolution to approve installment financing.
Yes, sir. In your package should be the resolution drafted by the city attorney approving installment financing terms with Truist Bank. We went out for bid for financing on April 26. We had 5 responses from the banks, and Truist was the lowest responsive bidder. The amount of the financing is $387,635, and the rate is 3.87%. I recommend adoption by reference.
Questions? Do I have a motion?
Mayor, I move we adopt a resolution approving installment financing by reference.
Have a motion by Mr. Bell to approve by reference. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Burks. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Leonard, you have annexation petitions. You don't? You do?
I do, yes, sir.
All right.
Mayor, this is for item 9B. This is consideration of a petition received by Duke Energy for a portion of property that contains a total of 4 pins and containing approximately, or a total of 38.62 acres. This property is located at the intersection of New Century Drive and Veterans Loop Road, and you have in your packets a resolution prepared by the city attorney that directs the city clerk to take the required actions, and staff recommends adoption by reference.
Questions? May I have a motion?
Mayor, I move we adopt a resolution directing the clerk to investigate the sufficiency of the annexation petition by reference.
Have a motion by Mr. Bell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Swears is the second. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In anticipation of your action, the city clerk has prepared a certification of sufficiency of the petition. In light of this certification, you have in front of you a resolution prepared by the city attorney setting the public hearing date for the July 13th, 2023 city council meeting on the question of the requested annexation. Staff again recommends adoption of this resolution by reference.
May I have a motion?
Mayor, I move we adopt a resolution setting the date for the public hearing by reference.
Have a motion by Mr. Bell to approve by reference. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Heath. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Item 9C.
9C has been removed due to needing some revisions.
All right.
And will be presented at next council meeting.
Need any action? No. Okay. Item D, 9D, go ahead.
This is a petition, which was received containing two parcels, of property, first being owned by Bernice Spoon and Janice Spoon, and containing .245 acres, and the second being owned by Ardani Nolasco and both are located at the intersection of NC Highway 42, Patton Avenue. You have in your packets a resolution prepared by the city attorney that directs city clerk to take the required actions, and staff recommends adoption by reference.
May I have a motion to approve by reference?
Mayor, I move we approve the resolution directing the city clerk to investigate the annexation petition by reference.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Where was that, Mr. Burks? Yeah. Okay. Discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Resolution for the date?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Once again, in anticipation of your actions, the clerk has prepared certification of sufficiency of the petition. In light of this certification, you have in front of you a resolution prepared by the city attorney setting the public hearing date for the July 13th, 2023 city council meeting on the question of the requested annexation. Staff recommends adoption of this resolution by reference.
May I have a motion to set the date by reference?
Mayor, I move we approve the resolution setting the date of the annexation petition by reference.
I have a motion by Mr. Bell. May I have a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Heath. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Mr. Leonard, you have 10A.
Yes, sir. In your packets, you have a change order number 8, between the city of Asheboro and Terry's Plumbing and Utilities Incorporated. This, some of the work that is included in this change order, includes the addition of a police and fire UTV storage building, to the existing maintenance building, installation of all sidewalks in phase 2, along with the stone installation for the parking lots and the paving of the parking lots and the main drive, as well as the walking trails in phase 2. The installation of these walking trails in phase 2, total increase for this contract is for $1,457,157.04. Staff recommends approval of this change order number 8 by reference.
And this completes the project.
Or
Good.
just recommend.
That's good news.
For everybody but Terry.
All right. You see what we just built for him? Fixing to. All right. May I have a motion to approve this change order number 8?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion we approve change order number 8 as presented.
I have a motion by Mr. Moffett. May I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Burks. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item 10B, and Ms. Reeves.
Yes, sir. There are 2 budget amendments in your packets. We'll address them one at a time. The first one is an amendment for the general fund to transfer some funding to the Sportsplex to cover number 1, change order number 8 that you just approved. In addition, it allocates $435,000 for networking, telecommunication, and security at the Zoo City Sportsplex facility, $14,000 for additional ball control netting and additional site work on Field 8 that is estimated that amount, and allocate some additional funding for city staff to finish their part of pulling everything together to completion on work that is needed that is outside of the contracts. I recommend adoption by reference.
Questions? May I have a motion to approve the amendment to general fund in order to fund the expenses at the Sportsplex.
Mayor, I move we adopt the ordinance to amend the general fund by reference.
Have a motion by Mr. Bell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Moffett. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Second part of that.
The second part is the ordinance to amend the Zoo City Sportsplex, recommending the funding that is coming from general fund balance to the Sportsplex fund to set up the expenditure line items. I recommend adoption by reference.
Have a motion to, may I have a motion to approve by reference?
Mayor, I move we approve the ordinance to amend the Sportsplex fund by reference.
Have a motion by Mr. Bell. May I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Burks. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Mr. Leonard, you have 11A.
Yes, sir. This is a update from the Prairie Ballpark. In your package, you have change order number 1 between the City of Asheboro and Rogers. This work includes the installation of the top lot retaining wall and all appurtenances that go with. The total increase to the contract is for $681,970, and staff recommends approval of change order, this change order number 1.
May I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the change order to Rogers Construction for $681,162.
Have a motion by Mr. Moffett. May I have a second?
Second.
Excuse me. Sorry. Second by Mr. Swears. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 11B, Ms. Reeves.
We will do a repeat of what we just did in 10, except the project that is involved is McCrary Ballpark Fund as well as the general fund. The first ordinance is an ordinance to amend the general fund to set aside funding for the change order that you just approved, as well as provide some additional funding for concrete work on the tot lot, land clearing costs, for the parcel of land along Highway 220 that was recently purchased, lighting costs estimated about $100,000, and some additional funding to allow city employees to finish their work that is outside of the scope of the contract. I recommend adoption by reference.
I have a recommendation. May I have a motion?
Mayor, I move we adopt by reference.
Have a motion by Mr. Burks. May I have a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Heath. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Was that I or double I?
That was I. Double I is the corresponding partner to the general fund ordinance. It is the ordinance to amend the McCrary Ballpark Improvement Fund, recognizing the funding from general fund balance to the project fund, setting up the expenditure line items. I recommend adoption by reference.
May I have a motion?
Mayor, I'll move we approve the ordinance to amend the McCrary Ballpark Improvements Fund by reference.
Have a motion to approve by reference. May I have a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Redding. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Ogburn, you want to give us a brief update on the budget changes?
Quickly, Mayor, just want to put into the record that with the combined tax bill, you can see there that if your 2022 current combined rate's 1.4416 per 100, city 0.665, county 0.6327, as per city schools. If you live in the school district, 0.1439, the new record tax rate of 72 for us, 50 for the county, and 114, not 14, 114. And you brings up to $1.334 per $100 value. So if you had in 2022, if you had a home value of $250,000, the tax was $3,604. 2023-24, if the house was revalued at $300,000 at the proposed tax rate, it would be $4,002, which is a tax increase of, $398. So we wanted to put that into the record because it is a combined tax bill. As we mentioned last time, we didn't think the 2.5 COLA would hold. Our competitors, the Randolph County Sheriff's Department, Siler City Police Department, right next door, Randleman Police Department, Archdale Police Department is all going higher than us. And we propose to move all employees, because we're gonna move police, we need to move fire, there's our other outstanding public safety group, and then we need to reward the public services and the facilities maintenance people for all the millions of dollars they've saved from these two projects. So we're asking for 5% in January as opposed to 2.5%. Water and sewer one fund change, we did have about $1 million allocated from retained earnings to be used for wastewater treatment plant permit improvements. Michael's talked about that. Michael Roney is out there still. We'll evaluate that in future budget years. I know, remember, Councilmember Burks, the mayor, Michael, and I serve on the county task force looking at water and sewer for the eastern part of the county, and there may be additional partners in the future for such things. Okay, the June 15th, that is next Thursday, is the public hearing, and the budget adoption is Monday the 7th. Please put your ears to the ground and people tell you.
Where, here, in here?
Yes, both of them are here. And reach out to Debbie or me if you have any questions. There's a lot going on now. I will say also upcoming, well, I have got the floor just for a minute. We anticipate another large subdivision coming online in front of you. Not as far south as this one, but down that same direction. And there's a lot of economic activity out there right now. So look for a lot happening in the summer and fall as we move into 2024. It's now 11:30, Mayor, and we turn it over to you.
Just check your calendars. Go to the website and find out what's going on. Well, it's been an interesting meeting. I will say that Saturday morning at 11:30 at the Episcopal Church of the Good Shepherd is our city manager's father, Jack, his funeral service. And try to be there if you can. And it's been a while since he passed, but we're all still thinking about you and know it's been a tough few weeks for you.
He's had a lot of interaction with most of you up here, and he always bragged on you.
Appreciate that.
11:30.
All right, so Sunset Theater, okay, budget hearing, he just went over that. Sunset Theater events, Rhythm and Zoo Fest, 15th through 17th. Tickets $25 or $65 for all three shows. Smitty and the Jump Starters, that is not me. Ghost Town Band and Eric Gales. Bicentennial Park Summer Concert Series coming up on Sunday the 18th, and that's the holiday band. And had a good crowd, I think, for the last one.
Yes, you did.
I was tied up and didn't get there. First one I missed.
About 1,800, 2,000 people. About 5,000 for the.
And then coming up July 14th is another one of our tribute bands, and that is the Petty Breakers, Tom Petty tribute band. Bicentennial, okay, Randolph County EDC annual meeting, at the Butler, at the Roost at Butler Farms.
So this is a little different, you know, that's traditionally been, at least the 30 years I've been going, to a breakfast at AVS, first thing, but it's changed this time. So if you've not RSVP Lisa Bennett, they need a pretty good head count, or let Joanne know and she'll RSVP for you.
Okay, and then the budget adoption meeting on the 26th.
All right, Mayor, so the State House and the State Senate continue to work on their budget. They've been in negotiations. They're pretty determined to end by June 30th. So we'll see in the next 2 weeks what shakes out of that.
I'm sorry that we kept y'all so late tonight. Appreciate you hanging around.
One more thing, Mayor, we reported at the budget session that we had all our police officers. We just are one short.
From day
Remember, I
to day.
mentioned that the cycle
We're one
continues to.
Yeah, from day to day, I'd be surprised if we're not one or two every day. Just pick up one, lose one. As I
Master
said,
Sergeant Webb was a fine police officer.
Yeah.
A long time.
and got along well with everybody. Just served the people well.
Yeah.
Unless somebody's got something burning to mention to the crowd, I think we'll dispense with that tonight. This is the latest I've been, here for a meeting in quite a while.
Since Middle was here.
Yeah, we used to do this, every Thursday night, every Thursday, yeah. Staff, thank you very much. Trevor, thank you, everybody. Appreciate the news media being here at all hours of the day and night. Thank you. Judy, good to see you. Derek, good to have you here. Good night. We're adjourned.